Morning, everyone. Happy Independence Day weekend. Did you guys have a good weekend? Yeah, all right. It's still going on today, this morning. So we're going to sing just one quick little patriotic song, America the Beautiful. So if you guys would stand up with us and sing. And you know, I put purple on the backgrounds here because I kind of like the idea of the red and the blue merging together. Everybody is one. So we like purple. It's got a purple feel today. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dreams that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Yeah, thank you.
Well, you can turn and wave to your neighbor. You can throw out your name if you want to introduce yourself through your mask. That's always welcome. Wasn't that a beautiful song we just sang? I wrote that song. Did you like it? Thank you. Some of you believe that and need to go back to your history lessons. That's okay. All right, well, thank you all for coming. And thank you for being here in person and coming out and being a part of this experience. Also, thank you for being with us online. And I'd like to remind you that if you're up on a stage speaking, it's more enjoyable when people are active listening. So we talk a lot about in ministry when you have people sleeping in the congregation. Some ministers are like, I've never had that happen. I was like, I always have people sleeping in my talk. So I don't know what I do wrong, but there's always someone sleeping. So active listening, like your eyes are engaged, you know, like you care, you're interested. Well, this goes for you online as well. Active listening actually happens online as well by you chatting in the chat box with Heather, who will be on there chatting with you to engage with you in this process. That's how you can be active there as well. We also invite you to share this, whether you're here live or online, to your Facebook page, to your Twitter account, to Instagram, wherever platforms you use. Go ahead and share that so we can get this message out further and reach as many people as possible. All right, what else do I have? So some of you know that I stopped doing the Saturday service, and I mentioned that I was working on another project. Well, that project has some pilot efforts that have come out, which I'm going to be posting on Unity's Facebook page this afternoon. So if you want to see that and check it out, it's called Less Serious, and that'll be showing up on our Facebook page this afternoon, so you can check that out. All right, coming up, my class, The Path to Living in Abundance, is going to be starting this coming Thursday. It's going to be a 3-week course with 7 classes, and you have to register for that ahead of time. We will not be doing on-site registration because we only have 12 seats we can actually put physically in the room. But it's going to be a hybrid class that's offered online via Zoom and with people in the room simultaneously. So if you can't make it in person and get one of those slots, then we have 90 slots open online if you want to try and join us via online. So check out our website calendar to get more information about that, and you can sign up there and be a part of that experience. It's really a transformational experience, which is kind of the culmination of my life's work. All the lessons I've had throughout my entire life to become the person I've become, the things I've learned, I packed into this class. And a lot of people have really been moved by this class, and so it's probably the best thing I've ever done. So if you care about that, then there it is. All right, what else? All right, yeah, so I'd just like to remind you to check the calendar on the website calendar, see what we have going on in the week. A lot of our classes and groups are back in the building, following the social distancing requirements that go along with that. So we're slowly ramping things up as safely as we can, as you probably saw with our little maze as you come in the front door here. And that is that. All right, we have more music.
Okay, we're going to sing this song as a prayer, so you can stay seated. I believe we've done this one before, Inside to Find My God. So just take it in, think about it, push it back out to everyone around you. I'll go ahead and start. And please sing along with me. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. Sing that again. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. I will leave this day. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. Go inside. go inside to find my God.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Erina, for that beautiful music, that incredible little song. Thank you, band. You guys don't get enough recognition. They are amazing. Yes, I'm here today by divine appointment. I was not supposed to do the second service, but I'm here. Sintish is having a little difficulty with her dog, who's got some itching, scratching stuff going on with its paws. She's had to get involved right away, right now. She's out taking care of Gillison, her beautiful dog. So you got me, all right? And all of you people that are watching this, I know that you only get up around 11 to watch her service. So this is going to be some kind of a surprise for you. Anyway, here I am, and I'm going to be sharing with you the truth of what we're just singing. I will leave this world as it is and go inside to find my God. That happens to be a description of our entire spiritual journey. And so on Friday of last week, a week ago, I saw a film was from a very fundamental Christian base. And in the film, a boy of 14 years old is out on a lake. He falls through the ice and he drowns. And he's underwater for about 10 or 15 minutes before they can fish him out with a hook. And they get him out and they try to revive him. And they're doing all of the things that they can do while they're trying to get him to the hospital. But they're always trying to revive him, and they give him some shots of things. And they're doing the respiratory pressure on his chest to get him to breathe and his lungs to move. They can't wake him up. He's done. He's dead. They get him to the hospital, they get him into the emergency room, and the doctors do all of their mojo on him. They have shots that they give to the heart, they have things that they're doing, and they're still doing the respiration work to try to get him to breathe, but there's no result. Now he's dead for about 25 minutes or a half hour, and they do the shock treatment on him to try to revive him. And they shock him sometimes, and the doctors finally say, we can't do anything about it. But the mother has shown up at the hospital by that time, and as the doctors have left the emergency room, she says, I want to see my son. So they say, well, go ahead in. They tell her that he's dead. She goes in, and does a fervent prayer to Jesus to bring life back into her son's body. Very powerful scene. And then you see the instruments start to blip. He has a pulse. Immediately, the team of doctors come back in. They are blown out of their minds, but they do everything they can. They say, they want to let her know he's probably not going to live through the night. They've had stuff like this happen before. According to the one doctor, his lungs are filled with blood. His organs are all gone. Even if he were to survive, he's not going to have any really mental capacity. He's going to have brain damage. He's been out too long. So they move him into, ICU, and the doctors stay with him. And But all the time, the mother is telling everybody around this young man, she doesn't want to hear any negative commentary. Nothing. And so even the people out in the waiting room who were talking like, we have to make plans for the memorial service, he said, I don't want to hear anything negative out of anybody. So, the reason why I'm feeling emotional about this is because Norma and I had the exact same experience when we first got to Boulder in the ministry. We had a young man that was working on his car and had the wheel off, and he was under it, and he told his friend that was working with him to go in and just to tap the brake. And what the kid did is he hit the gear shift, and the car came off the jack and went down on top of this kid that was under that wheel. So he was gone, and when they pried him out, he was no breath, no life. They took him to the emergency room, and we were all there, and we said prayers, and the people that came in kept saying negative things. They said, look, don't. Nothing negative, okay? Let's just hold the presence of God. So anyway, this movie is a very powerful movie that goes on about these days that the doctors have put all these life support systems on this kid to keep him going, but they really think that they're just wasting their time. And finally, after 3 days, the mother says, can we take him off the life support systems? And the doctor says, it's your choice, but they didn't hold out any hope that he's going to be all right. And they reminded her that he's probably not going to have the mental capacity that you expect him to have, and whatever. So the next morning, they take him off the life support system, and he unbelievably is able to breathe on his own. And then after that, a short time later, he actually wakes up from the coma and can talk. And he has no mental damage whatsoever. And this movie wouldn't be as meaningful unless the doctors actually verify this kid was dead. And it was beyond anything, the doctor, in fact, in the movie says, this is beyond everything I know about life. That's it. And so on that, I'm going to be talking about my interest in spiritual healing, which I'd always been interested in. It was the thing that really got me started on my journey, a spiritual journey way back when and I was keenly interested in those people that were able to perform spiritual healing. And at that time, there was a number of them. There still are people that are involved in that. But I was keenly interested in Edgar Cayce and Joel Goldsmith and a guy named Phineas Quimby, who at that time was no longer in the body himself, but had lived. And he actually, whether you know it or not, was the father of Christian Science. It's out of his work that Mary Baker Eddy created Christian Science, because Phineas Quimby was so filled with the idea of the presence of God in every person, in every place, in every condition, that if you came to him with your illness or your sickness or your disease or whatever it was you had, he would talk you out of it. A very unique thing. And Mary Baker Eddy worked for him and watched this taking place all the time. And so when she left him, she created Christian Science, which is all about, spiritual healing. You heal yourself. You don't need doctors. You do it. You're going to do it. And you take healing practitioners to, be there with you through it. Well, as idealistic as all that is, we know that Christian Science has, run up against some hard things in difficult times, and stuff like that because it hasn't always worked. And the medical society has gotten down on some of Christian Science because of the fact that people they felt would have been saved by, allopathic medicine, were lost because they were trying to believe in this idea of spiritual healing. So it's all very interesting. But I know this, that all of the spiritual healers that I was aware of and had been aware with down through the years, the ones that were really effective, totally effective, like Edgar Cayce and Joel Goldsmith and Phineas Quimby and a few others, while they didn't have the same way of doing it, the one factor that they had in common was they had an unshakable belief in the omnipresence of God. That is, that God was present in every moment, in every place, in every condition, under all circumstances. And that if you were able to understand that and open to that and believe that, then in that understanding, you could no longer be sick or have an illness or a disease. That seems to be how powerfully those healers believed in that. And what they believed in is shared at the heart of every major religion, which is what which is what unity was all started from. Charles Fillmore studied the major religions to try to find out where they agreed. That's why he calls it unity. He called it unity. Well, this is the underlying foundation of the entire movement toward the reality of our divinity. This alone will eventually heal the world, and nothing short of this will. And it is related in this way by this particular guru, whose name I can't pronounce, but it's what he says that's most important. See for yourself the statement, all is one, is conducive to good or evil. As far as it is true that only that person can be righteous who regards himself the same as he regards others, and regards others the same as he regards himself, how can any evil attach itself to him who knows himself to be others and the others be himself? This is a question posed to humanity. What are you looking for? What are you seeking? What are you aspiring to? And he's saying, I have a question for you. See for yourself if the statement, all is one, is conducive to good or evil, as far as it is true that only that person can be righteous who regards himself the same as he regards others, and regards others the same as he regards himself. How can any evil attach itself to him who knows himself to be others and the others be himself? And this quote is exclusively about healing the mind of its illusion of separation. But it's exclusively about that. And whether or not it translates to the physical body is something I have not yet been able to say absolutely. Because over the years, I have been involved in spiritual healing. And I have been involved in spiritual healing in every possible way you can imagine. I have prayed with people on the deathbed. I have prayed with people that had a child who was on his deathbed. I have prayed with people that have terminal cancer. In some cases, I have, in my praying with them, they have revived and come out of it and been healed. And in some cases, they have not. So, the jury is out. And, I can give specific cases that are kind of mind-blowing, because in some cases, they were completely healed, and they were healed for a period of time. one cancer girl, a young girl, she was on her deathbed and prayed with her and her family, and she came out of it and was completely clear of cancer and lived for 5 years, and then got cancer again, or I say got cancer again because she didn't have any. They couldn't find any for 5 years. And then she passed on. And whether that was her choice or her journey, I don't know about that. And in some case, I prayed directly with a person in bed that I was called in because he was given days, only days. It was the final days. And I prayed with him and talked to him and went through prayer with him. And he left the hospital the following week, completely clear. And then he was on the phone to me all the time, talking to me, and I was completely always bolstering the idea of his healing, etc. And I did this for several weeks, and then I went away on vacation when he couldn't reach me, because when I went on vacation, it was in the Havasupai area of the Grand Canyon, no cell phones. I didn't have any way of being reached at all, and he passed on. So tell me about it. I don't know. And other people I prayed directly with families, and they have passed on. I can't say yes or no to the whole idea, because I'll tell you this. From my spiritual journey beginning, I have always attempted to believe in this truth of the oneness of the presence of God in every person, in every place, in every condition. And when I'm praying for somebody, I'm holding that awareness. And I hold it even when I'm not praying for them, if they come to mind. So that's where that is at. The ego-centered mind, however, cannot easily accept the reality of oneness. The ego-centered mind, which we were conditioned and raised and educated in, cannot accept, overtly accept, the oneness that I'm talking about. I used to teach the Course in Miracles many, many years ago. And in my Course in Miracles classes, as is today, at least half the people leave the class before you get halfway through the teaching of the Course, because they can't handle it. They can't handle what the Course says. And in one particular situation, not one, but a number of them, but in this particular one, which happened to be recorded, which was fortunate, I was teaching a class, a Course in Miracles class, and we had everybody broken up into 3 groups in this fellowship hall. Not this one. This was in our other church. It was pretty large, though, the same size. And while we were doing the discussion, this guy jumps up and he shouts, "I hate the Course in Miracles. I hate it." And I know he disrupted everything we were intending to do, bring everybody into harmony. I'm at the other end of the room, and I jump up, and I'm impelled to say, "Why?" And as I said, some girl had her phone on, recorded the entire back and forth between me and this guy, and I'm going to give it to you verbatim. He jumps up and says, "I hate A Course in Miracles." I jump up on the other side of the room and say, "Why?" He shouts back at me, "Because it states over and over again that I have to accept everyone just as he is, to look past the mean and deceitful things people do I have to do that in order to free myself from deceit in my own mind. I am not mean and I am not deceitful. The Course in Miracles is stupid." I shout back, "Never say that again as long as you live." He shouts, "Why?" I shout, "Because it's a book about God and you're committing blasphemy. Something bad could happen to you." He shouts, "Like what?" I shout, "You could get a flat tire or athlete's foot." He shouts, "Are you threatening me?" I shout back, "Are you inferring that I have the power to decide who does and who doesn't get athlete's foot?" He jumps on a chair and shouts, "I want my money back. I want what I paid for this class to be refunded." I run across the room, kick the chair out from under him. And I say to him, there's no way you're getting your money back. I already spent the money for this class on new seat covers for my car. That's a gullibility check. At what point did you check out of that and say, this can't be what actually took place? Okay. So just you can grade yourself at what point you left that dialogue. I will tell you this, though. In one case, I had a number of people in A Course in Miracles do that. I had people throw their books away and get angry at me and all that. But in one class, the one guy did jump up and say, I hate A Course in Miracles, and did say, it's because, am I supposed to accept everybody just as they are? All their mean and deceitful attitudes and things that they do, I have to accept that in order to feel like I am free of the deceit within myself. So that was a true story. That part of it is absolutely true. And it's true. It is true that we grow in the awareness of this divine ideal.
Okay. You told me I couldn't come out until after the video, but you are just going on and on and on. We're never going to get to the video, and I've got to chime in.
Okay.
I can't take it anymore.
All right. Okay. Now, he doesn't necessarily, hold on. He doesn't necessarily believe as I do. He thinks he's advanced beyond me. He thinks, you know why? Because he grew up here doing the sound, so he heard everything I said, so he took all of that in, and then he went beyond it. That's why he's out here right now. He's out here to show off.
I just took all that time to find all the holes in your arguments over those last 30 years.
Okay.
Here's the problem I always have with spiritual healing, or prayer for healing. Most of us go into it with a specific outcome in mind. But most of us don't have the awareness to understand a divine plan that might be greater than we are, or even the divine plan for our own soul to unfold. So we sit down and we can measure this as succeeding or failing based on my tiny little perception of how the world should work according to the way I think it should work. And if it doesn't align with my perception, it didn't work. That's the problem I have with it.
Okay, I agree with you. So what we are talking about is the fact that we automatically see the physical body as the goal and the result.
Right.
So when we're thinking in those terms, what it is we want to see happen and take place, the whole goal of it has to do with the physical side of it, which I kind of stepped away from a little bit when I said I'm not sure whether or not, the divine consciousness actually translates to physical healing. I'm not saying it doesn't because I don't know. Because I have seen it translate, but then I've had other occasions where it hasn't.
Well, I think it's fascinating to think, let's play out the hospital scenario. You have a person in the bed, they're possibly sitting on the door of their transition, and you might have 5, 6, 7 family members immediately in the room or in the building or involved in this process. And all of them have a journey that's unfolding. And all of them have lessons they're learning, and all of them have possibilities for growth. And so how can we think, and a lot of us do, that this person's continuance in this physical journey is mandatory when all these factors are at play? Everyone's going to learn from this experience, including the individual in the bed, the people experiencing that individual in the bed, the people outside them experiencing their experience from the person in the bed. And yet we get wrapped up in, no, the outcome is tied to just this person's experience in the bed. But there's this grand unfoldment taking place, which probably hundreds or thousands of people might even be impacted from just this one person's experience. So who are we to sit here and say, this has to go the direction I think it should go? The suffering has to stop, the doctors have to stop, this has to stop, whatever it is, and think that we get to mandate what's going to happen in the experience of all these hundreds of people that are affected by this one moment.
I understand. And before we go any further with this, get out of here.
I want to share, can I share a quick anecdote?
No, just stick around.
No, I'm going to share something real quick, because I want to go back a little bit to when you were talking about the healer.
All right, go ahead.
And you were talking about Quimby and Casey and Joel S. Goldsmith. And one thing about those characters, which you touched on, was that they were so authentic. You said basically the exact same thing. They were so authentic in their belief. There wasn't a shred of doubt in their ability and the ability of the person they were working on to do that healing. I was listening to this podcast, and there was this young doctor, and he's talking about his story. And he was in his young 20s, and he was working on his patients, and he actually heard about healing through hypnosis. So he studied hypnosis, he studied hypno-healing, and he had this patient come in that had been to every doctor all over the UK, I believe they're in the UK, and this guy could not be healed. He had this condition where his body was covered in warts from head to toe. So he took him into hypnosis, and he talked him through the process he had learned, and within days, the guy's entire right arm was cleared entirely of this. So he documented what happened. He went in front of the journal board to present his evidence to say, can we start including this in our practice? And the president of that organization, whatever journal board they had at that time, he stood up and he said, "You're lying. That condition is incurable." And that young doctor, from that point forward, he actually had healed many people using hypnosis. From that point forward, could never do it again. His ability was gone. And he traces it back to that one authoritative figure smashing doubt into his consciousness. He could never get someone to heal. And he went back to the guy to try to get the rest of his body healed, and he couldn't do it.
That is such a valid point. That is so valid, and it's something that you will hear all of us, and Tisha, Shad, myself, share often. You have got to be so careful of authority figures. You know that doctors and politicians quite often, and teachers that you grew up with, you grow up and you are conditioned to believe that they know because they're in a position of authority that they know. And they've had all this background and training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then, so if one of them says to you something that you may not even fully believe in, you will believe in it because this is the authority. And so one of the most difficult things we have to do when we're trying to heal ourselves is to step beyond that whole paradigm in which we were raised to believe there are people that are experts. If you don't get anything else out of this talk, take this with you. There is actually no perfectly trained expert. There's no Jesus walking around today that's going to be able to offset anything you're going through. Only you can finally garner the courage and the practice to finally say no to it. And I'm not saying that these doctors and these healers are not worth working with. I'm saying that be careful of any doctor or healer who does not believe that you can be healed. As soon as you pick up that he's not there with you, get out of there. And before we go on, one final thing is...
Watch that finger. Take an eye out.
What?
Watch your finger.
Okay.
You might take an eye out.
We should not assume either that death is all that difficult or terrible. We've had information from people that have gone beyond, come back and done things like that. And there's a beautiful saying in the Zen. It says, you will regret every day you resisted death.
It's funny you're bringing this up about experts and professionals. I've been thinking about this all week long. And the thing that amazes me is that we all forget the types of people we know that became experts and professionals. So I'm a sound engineer. I have worked with the top sound engineers on the planet in my field. And I've met them, and they know more than I will ever know about sound engineering. But I would watch them lie to a client that they couldn't do something with sound because they simply didn't want to. They would say, can we get a microphone here? And they go, no, you can't do that. It just won't work. And I go, you absolutely can do it. I'm thinking in my head, but this guy is the absolute authority because there's still an ego in this human being. So people keep posting on Facebook, oh, this person from Yale University with this degree and this and that says blah, 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 blah. And I said, I know people who went to Yale who are complete morons. So that means nothing to me.
Right.
The point being, we all know people. Well, I'll use an example. I know someone who became a surgeon who I would not even let them carry a noodle around me because they're so dangerous with their lack of attention. We know these people, and these are the same people in all these leadership positions telling us what's happening in the world. Except for some reason, we forget that we know these people. They're regular humans with the egotistical agendas and biases, and they were raised with a certain ideology, and none of them are evil or trying to do something wrong. They're just speaking from their own perception. I have a perception, you have a perception. Speaking from their own perception, yes, they might have some access to a lot of data I don't have access to, but they also might not have insights that I have access to. That doesn't make them wrong, like you're saying. It just means I have to weigh heavily on my mind, is this a person who comes from a place of humility and spirit, or do they possibly have an agenda and a perception that's leading where they're trying to go?
And and I agree that sometimes it's by divine order that we go through an illness and it finally takes us out, because we do not actually know the soul choices. You know, what a soul is choosing for its development, and, you know, it's trying to align itself with the universe. But when we get right down to it, it can't really hurt us to live in the awareness of oneness. In other words, if we're in that awareness, we automatically are forgiving everything and everyone. And we automatically, even when we'd like to see some outcome in the physical take place, we're capable of not being thrown down completely and destroyed when it doesn't, because we know that this divine intelligence of which we are all a part has a grander plan and a grander scheme in everything. And so we should surely have, you know, intentions and visions and affirmations and prayers for what it is we'd like to see occur, but we should not be so locked up in the idea that it has to play out that way for it to be good. It may play out another way and still be better, even for the person that is no longer in the body.
It's amazing. I love reading Buddha talking about we have no concept of bliss. And the Buddha talks about your best experience here in the physical is hell compared to bliss. We can't even conceive it because we're sitting here and we're like, oh, I had an ice cream bar. That was amazing.
Right.
That must be bliss. That was the most hellish experience you could imagine compared to bliss. And so we sit here and we get so wrapped up in this physical body and trying to hold on to this physical experience, and we forget that there's just this blissful opportunity sitting there we can't even wrap our rational head around, that we just sort of swear it off all entirely and go, I don't really want any of that because I've had it pretty good here and this is worth fighting for. The Buddha's like, this is not what you're fighting for. You're fighting for that. You should be working towards that. And he does a really good job of keeping that in the perspective. Remember that life is suffering. We don't like to go through our day going, oh, this is suffering, but relative to bliss, life is suffering. So know that there's always this incredible potential beyond even your greatest experience here that requires you to open up to that and stop being trapped in thinking this is it.
Yeah. Don't you think you're a little bit over the top bringing Buddha here to this Christian church?
You've already had, a psychic with Edgar Casey. You had basically a... And Quimby, by the way, also started Unity. Unity comes directly out of Quimby's lineage.
That's right. They actually, it wasn't Mary Beck, but somebody called Unity watered down Christian Science. So here we are, watered down Christian Science. But the fact of the matter still remains that when you're talking about life, it is possible, I believe, as the Master said, to be in this world, but not of it. And I think that's what karma yogis like ourselves are all about. We're not renouncing the world. We're not going off to ashrams and being done with the world or going into a cave. We're remaining in the marketplace life we were born in and now we're living in. We're remaining in that with our ideal to transcend the thinking of the world in which we live and work and have our lives. So we can live in that higher place, and by doing that, we become emissaries of healing and truth and love and peace to every other people, every other person we have around us. That's really the goal. Our bliss can be found in that. We, even in the presence of the most difficult conditions and circumstances, we are able to stand there with the awareness of the presence of God as love. And
I think it's amazing to read about the yogis and the spiritual masters of yore. What a great word. We should all say that more often. Of yore. Everyone say of yore.
Of yore.
Doesn't that feel good?
Right.
You read about them, and they've reached this place of complete detachment from the body. I mean, they really fully experience life because they're no longer invested in the experience as a body. And the body is simply a vessel at that point, and they have a point in time where they go, I'm done with the body. And they just leave. And there's not this dying process and this whole process they have to go through. Because the body can be used as a vehicle to get something done. And when that is accomplished and they feel like they could move on to something else, they just step out of the body. And to really get into that place that this is an experience, but it's not the end goal in any way, shape, or form. And if we can do this spiritual practice in this lifetime, we can get to that place of detachment from the body. Not that we don't take care of it, not that we don't still enjoy what the body life has to offer, but we're now detached from the illusion of life just being the body. And we can actually enjoy life beyond the body. When they talk about the masters just dipping in and out of this, infinite consciousness, and be able to just come back and tell people a little lesson here and there, but they're not attached to, well, I'm coming from my perception of my life and how this should be. I'm just going to tap in real quick and give you what you need because I've moved out of this illusion of just a body. But they've done the work and the practice it takes to get there. It's not just about eating enough pleasurable ice cream bars to get there. It's about removing yourself from this experience through that practice to be able to see just the body.
That's perfectly put. I'm glad you stepped out here. Okay, yeah. But if you ever do it again. And so I want to just share this short video from a modern-day master, Eckhart Tolle. Can we get this video? It might take them a minute to get it up. They're not expecting any of this. Honestly, this is an improvisation. We never planned this. He asked, Santisha checked out because if a dog said, Jack, will you take the service? I said, yeah, fine. And he said to me, you want me to jump in? I said, yeah, jump in. And so he jumped in, which is hardly even polite. I mean, basically.
I didn't ask if I should ever jump back out.
I could rule you back out. I'm still the king of unity, whether you know it or not. Do we have that video? All right, let's do it. Stick around.
And then you try other relationships, and you try other places to live, and you try other activities, and sooner or later, and usually sooner, you come again to the place. This isn't right either. And then you ask, what am I really meant to do? Where am I really meant to be? Because it's not here. It's never here, ultimately. Because you're not at home deep enough in the now. So you can never feel, this is never it. So, but there's no external solution to that. There's only an inner solution to that. You come home to the now, and you have to drop down beyond the mental, emotional accumulations that you confuse with who you are, and you sense as I sometimes say, the ripple on the surface of the Pacific Ocean stops thinking of itself as a ripple and senses its own depths. And suddenly the ripple feels at one with the depths of the ocean, but also feels at one with every other ripple that it sees on the surface of the ocean, because it senses its connectedness with the totality, with the one, and therefore recognizes every other ripple as also being an expression of that. And then for the first time it can become comfortable with other ripples, really at ease. The ripples, of course, in our analogy are people.
So,
He has his own TV channel now? Come on.
oh, are you kidding me? People say to me, what about prosperity? This guy has done it. I mean, he's really right on it. He lives in this truth he's sharing. And he's a multimillionaire. And he must have a gazillion decisions to make every day. Because you have that kind of money, you've got to deal with it. He's got television channels, he's got speaking engagements, he's got books he's still writing. And he's not alone in that. There's really nothing wrong with having money or even having a lot of money. The problem is too often money does take away your inner truth. There's situations that come up with money too often where you have to decide between, doing the right thing and doing what money would have you do. Well,
he's a perfect example of developing the consciousness to be able to handle money before he got the money.
I'd like to try it the other way.
Well, you look at the suicide rate of lottery winners and just recognize that it's actually a giant burden to try to deal with this because there's not a consciousness or training that comes ahead of time. It's just here's this huge responsibility that you've never been trained how to handle through your ego or your consciousness, and people just rupture in that process because it's too much to handle all at once. But I think he's a beautiful example of that, and Deepak Chopra, doing the work ahead of time and growing into the capability of holding on to their spirituality during that process. Because they didn't start with the money goal first. They started with the spirituality first.
Right. Do you know that I opened for Deepak Chopra in a
men's
symposium?
bathroom?
In a symposium way back when I first got here. And he has had the biggest ego you ever saw. But he's gotten over it since then. You know why?
Why?
Because he wrote a book titled Timeless Mind, Timeless Body.
Yeah.
Okay, the timeless body thing, he's lost it. He's getting gray. He's wearing glasses. He's getting wrinkles. So
That's
it's
the
humbled
Charles
him.
Fillmore route.
That's right. Charles Fillmore was going to regenerate.
He was going to regenerate in this body. And on his deathbed, he said, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah. Okay, how close are we to being
I think this
done?
is about time. I'm going to wrap it up.
Okay.
I'll make my exit so you can put your final polish on it.
Okay. I want to polish it this way. We need to have a practice in order to be in the world and not of the world. People who are in the world and of the world are not spiritually mindful. So in unity, we become mindful. So we carry our spiritual practice with us into our experiences in the world. So we don't, fall away from the peace that comes with being in the awareness of God. And so I said last week in my early talk that we should follow this as our yoga this week. You'll find out how beneficial, uplifting, and energizing doing this particular yoga. And I'll show it to you from A Course in Miracles. Do we have the last PowerPoint that I was going to use today? All right, here it is. You can read this in the Course in Miracles text, the old text, page 132, paragraph 2. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him you will find yourself or lose yourself. Whenever two sons of God meet, they are given another chance at salvation. Do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him or her and receiving it for yourself. For I am always there with you in remembrance of you. And again, the only caveat I have for A Course in Miracles is the fact that Helen Schuckman knew it would be so difficult to do the task she was going to do and used both genders in the pronouns. So she chose to use the male gender exclusively because we were used to that in the writings that we have and in our Western culture. So she chose or was guided to use the male gender only. But basically, can we have this back again? This should be written this way. When you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. As you see him or her, you will see yourself. As you treat him or her, you will treat yourself. As you think of him or her, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him or her you will find yourself or lose yourself. Whenever two children of God meet, they are given another chance at salvation. Do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him or her and receiving it for yourself. For I am the living God always there with you in remembrance of you. We'll take an offering for unity now. You okay? You got it.
All right. Let's remember we're taking this opportunity, one, as a spiritual tool to help us learn how to grow out of our own attachment to our financial situation and learn how to open up to the flow of abundance that's just waiting to get into our lives. And two, to invest in the type of world we want to see. If we put most of our money into Starbucks, we're going to see more Starbucks. If we put most of our money into spirituality, we're going to see more spirituality. That's the reality of the system. So let's take our offerings into our hands, and if you're watching online at home, I invite you to join us in this process through these many ways we have to give. So whether your offering is spiritual, digital, or physical, I invite you to put it in the palm of your hands right now and join me in blessing it with this offering statement, if you'll say it with me. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive because I give. Thank you.
So we invite you to sing this song along with us. Here I am, letting go of my fears, surrendering all, surrendering all. Find me here, God, as you draw me near, ready for you. I'm ready for you. I surrender. Heal my soul, His mercy and grace.
That's a good song. I love that song. So I'd like to remind all of you that this service will be up on Facebook and YouTube forever. So if you want to go back and watch this again or share it with one of your friends and family, you can go ahead and do that. And I know a lot of people are doing that, taking the time to watch this later on and engage in it one more time or to share it with people they know. All right, so we do have my class coming up this week, but we also have lots of stuff going on you want to be a part of, so go ahead and check out that calendar when you get out of here. You can check it out online. We have going on.
All the nuts and bolts, the particular intricacies of spiritual practice that you can employ to get to that divine place in the enlightened consciousness will be shared in his class. So you should be taking that class. It's got the nuts and bolts we all need and use.
I hope you're going to take the class.
I will take it. I will.
No, you won't.
Okay.
You'd be bored. All right. Why don't we rock on out with I Release and I Let Go. You can stand up in place. You can clap your hands. You can move your body. Get that blood flowing.
Is Norma here? No? Okay.
Let's do it.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God.
Okay.
Have a beautiful day.
Yes, we can have fellowship out on the front steps at 6 feet apart with a mask.